This podcast is brought to you by Always Possible.
alwayspossible.co.uk.
In a world where the recruitment landscape is evolving at the speed of AI, where algorithms seem to hold the keys to our professional destinies, we find ourselves at a crossroads. So today, we're diving deep into the realm of ethics in recruitment and the development of staff. You might be thinking, ethical recruitment? Is that even possible in the age of artificial intelligence? In this episode of the Possibility Club, we'll unravel the extraordinary world of human-centric talent experiences, of technology matching the right people with the right careers at the right time, not just the obvious people or the connected people. We're asking if there are companies being brave enough to look well beyond the spheres of their competitors and think differently about where future talent comes from. And then even braver still, to invest in and to develop those people as they progress for the long term. And joining us today is a distinguished guest who's more than just a marketing whiz. He's a global advisor of recruitment marketing, a key figure on the EMEA Council of the Candidate Experience Awards, and Vice President of Marketing for Beamery. Beamery are on a mission to help the world's biggest and most innovative companies tap into the full potential of their global workforce. They believe in a different way of connecting with future talent, one that places talent at the very heart of every business decision. It's all about building relationships, mirroring the same sophistication we see when companies market their products, nurture communities, or cultivate their brand. At a time where AI algorithms can sort through resumes with lightning speed and precision, the opportunities are immense. We can potentially match candidates with jobs that align not just with their skills, but also their values and aspirations. But ethical recruitment means treating candidates with respect and fairness no matter where they come from or what they look like, even if it's at the hands of a computer. But as we know, with great power comes great responsibility. The risks are clear. As algorithms become more involved in hiring decisions, there's a danger of bias creeping in. If the data used to train these algorithms carries historical biases, structural racism, bigotry, discrimination, or just plain clumsy language, they could perpetuate discrimination inadvertently or not. So here's the conundrum. How do we harness the incredible potential of AI in recruitment while ensuring that we remain ethical and unbiased? It's a question that demands thought, consideration, and practical bravery. My guest today is an advocate for ethical recruitment that's firmly rooted in human values. He believes that it's possible to strike a balance, to use advancing technologies as a tool to augment our abilities rather than to replace our humanity. I'm Richard Freeman. This is the Possibility Club, and my special guest this week is Ben Slater. Hello. This is the Possibility Club. This is Richard Freeman, and as you'll know, this is a little glimpse of change, of impact, of the future. I'm talking to people from the worlds of business, of public life, of culture around where are we going, what are we doing, what's happening when people are rolling their sleeves up, being practically brave in their work, measuring impact as it unfolds. And this episode is absolutely no different. I am delighted to be joined by Ben Slater, SVP of Marketing of Beamery. If you've not come across Beamery, they are absolute leaders in the world of AI and recruitment. They are disrupting, challenging, rethinking recruitment, onboarding, staff development, training, and it's really exciting, I think, some of the work they're doing. But that work can't be easy. And in a brave new world of AI, how do we deal with the conundrums around the robots stealing all our work and our jobs, but also inbuilt biases and taking out the humanity of HR, which is essentially a very, very human profession? So keen to explore all of that. But first of all, Ben, on this very sunny Thursday afternoon, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, and that's a super intro. Looking forward to covering a ton of ground, and yeah, great to be here with you.
So let's start with you and your journey. How does one find oneself being the SVP of marketing at this major sort of tech innovator?
I actually joined Beamery as the first commercial hire into the business. There's a lot of classical, stereotypical Silicon Valley style startup stories, right? Business founded in a garage, small kind of band of people with a big idea. And, for us, it was actually no different, not Silicon Valley, but London and a converted garage, converted into a kitchen at one of our founders' houses or apartments. There was a couple of engineers in the kitchen and the commercial people, which was myself and the CEO at the time, in the living room. So many moons ago, we started the business focused on maybe addressing a lot of the inequity that exists in hiring and talent development processes. So in so many instances, people are judged on who they are today, where they went to school, the businesses that they've been a part of, versus their potential, where they might go in the future. And our goal from day one has been level the playing field, create equal access to work, that no matter where you were born, where you grew up, who you are, you have the same ability to realize your career ambitions. And obviously over time we've grown substantially as a business. So we're post Series D, unicorn valuation, global organization, and really lucky to support the who's who of the Fortune 500 when they think about how to build their workforce of the future.
What's the core service provided to these big businesses that are relying on you to help them find this kind of real big diverse pool of talent?
The core technology at Beamery is a talent lifecycle management platform. Now, what does that mean? It means that you have all of these different processes that exist across the talent lifecycle. That might be recruiting, that might be talent development, upskilling, workforce planning. All of these things traditionally existed in different silos, different products. With Beamery, we're bringing all of that into one place to give businesses a holistic way of attracting, engaging, retaining and upskilling talent. And we're doing that on a foundation of AI to help recruiters, HR professionals, and managers make better and faster decisions.
Investing in that professional development, in that training, that upskilling, that nurturing of a workforce, understanding that human resources are not kind of fixed assets and commodities that just kind of you can just move around like a piece of a jigsaw. That these are people that perhaps within them are unlocking your next major product and service. They'll be the eyes and ears of your company, whether they're at the back end or the front end. They're as much a part of the kind of organic beast that a business is as anything else. But often people fail to see that and think that that's just a luxury or it's a nice to have. And L&D training programs are often the first to be cut when there's a recession, when times are tight. And we've had economic turmoil pretty much constantly now for the last 8 years, if not going back to the financial crash, longer. Is that why Beamery exists? Partly because of that problem to solve?
I love that, Richard. And there's a couple of things that you said that I wanted to kind of double click on. It is a big part of why Beamery exists. We think a lot about potential, right? Potential for organizations in terms of being able to develop their workforce of the future, but also the potential of the humans that exist within those organizations. And there's the old adage that I think we're all familiar with, which is, hey, it's easier to get promoted by leaving your organization than staying there. Until recently, the infrastructure rarely existed within businesses to help individuals create a career path that helped them realize their own ambitions, right? The visibility didn't exist for them in terms of possible internal opportunities to develop, right? Maybe within their department or maybe within adjacent departments. And the insights didn't exist for managers, to understand the skills that they had today and how they can develop those people to build what they need for the future. And the thing that I love, which you said, is talent is not a fixed asset. And we talk about that in those exact words here at Beamery. The people that you have today have enormous potential that you can unlock. And I think we're at a really fantastic time now where career journeys are not seen in this totally linear box 1, box 2, box 3 format. they can be squiggly. You can move from, one area of the business to another. It can be more of a jungle gym, right, than a ladder. And the organizations enabling people to explore the company like that, to build new skills, to engage with mentors, people that have, done the path before, do that in a way that is personalized and at scale is hugely valuable, because there's a lot of data out there about the skills that businesses are going to need in the future and how quickly skills are changing, and how departments are going to need different things. And obviously we've all seen what's happened just in the last few months with ChatGPT. Business is changing quickly. Organizations are not going to be able to go to the market and recruit for the skills they need in the future. They have to build that talent internally. Obviously, it's lower cost, but it also creates the type of engagement and the type of business that we should all be striving to do.
So I've been talking to quite a few people who, maybe really talented graduates or people who've been working in that sector for a little while, going, what makes you choose about where to work, in terms of company, but also, geography and stuff. And the thing I keep hearing is people saying, of course, salary is important, and of course, title plays a part, and commutability and all that stuff. But actually being able to see inside that company, being able to see its culture, and not just what it tells me on the job description and on the recruitment pack and on the website, but being able to see who it's dealing with and how, it's just some of that sense of what it is like as a place to work. There's actually quite a small number of companies getting that right as well. And often they are bigger ones because they've got resources to do it. So there's some really smart kind of SMEs that are trying to recruit this digital talent, but people haven't heard of them because perhaps that's kind of supply chain, and no one knows what it's like to work inside them. If you can't see that a company is offering that, then you're not going to apply to work there. And then we've got this real problem. Are your clients using the platform to actually aid their communication as well? To be able to kind of put out into the world and say, look, we're doing human resources in a different way. We're building our talent pool in a different way.
I think the problem you've hit on is such an important one. Anyone can put their company values on a website, right? And anyone can project this employment brand into the world. We all know what people are searching for, particularly, new generation of talent entering the market, is authenticity, right? Do the words on the website match what it's actually like to be part of that business? And, if we look at the new generation of talent specifically, these people are making decisions on where to work based on a whole number of factors that businesses have probably never considered, right? And the way that they've grown up in society, the things that are important to their generation are influencing them in ways that maybe they don't even understand, right? So things like diversity, things like ethical business, these are things that organizations can no longer, look at as a checkbox, right? They have to be part of an operating model. But I think to answer your specific question, it is a fundamental problem to give external candidates, those insights into your organization. This is by no means a product pitch, but it is one of the things that we actually help solve for at Beamery, giving external candidates a view into their career path, or what their career path would look like at an organization, giving them a view as to, okay, what are the jobs that might be a good fit for your skills, right? Versus you going through and combing a list of open vacancies and, hey, if you developed in this area, actually you could apply for this different job. And here are, mentors or, learning courses, et cetera, that you could take to do so. So it's really trying to start that employee journey far earlier. I think, when we look at the talent lifecycle, it's really easy for companies to think about someone in these really distinct phases. Someone's a candidate, someone's a job applicant, someone's an employee, someone's an alumni of the business. And the reality is they're all people, and building and maintaining a personalized relationship with that person is the important thing. And there's a lot of fluidity between these different stages, and we're trying to certainly support that at Beamery.
And is that where the AI component has its biggest strength, in being able to take data, do a job that an HR department or person, whatever is unlikely to have the capacity or bandwidth to do, certainly if there's lots of staff, to be able to have that kind of a dialogue with that member of staff? What is, where are you going, what are you doing? And then start to build that out as a kind of modeled, personalized, as you say, that kind of journey. Is that right?
Exactly. And I think for a candidate, that insight could be jobs that they might not have considered that are a good fit for their skills. And I think this focus on skills is something that we're seeing both across our customer base and across the market. And this transition from looking at things, in this 4x4 box of a job to a more fluid picture of someone's skills and, where they could develop in the future and the skills you actually need to get work done. So AI can help you better match skills to the work you need to get done. But on the business side, it helps you identify potential, right? It helps give managers insights as to, where they need to recruit and actually where there might be a better opportunity to upskill and develop their team. The goal is always intelligence and insights and making the stakeholders, whether that's a recruiter, an HR professional, manager, a candidate, making that person a superhero, giving them agency to make better decisions. I think what AI allows businesses to do is put employees at the helm of their careers, right? And we like to think about this, it was like Google Maps, right? Could you give an employee turn-by-turn navigation to help them get from where they are today to where they want to be, right? The skills they need to learn, the people they need to connect within the organization, the conversations, that they need to have with their manager, empower the manager, right, to help them on that journey. Because the reality of these learning programs, as you know, is that they're not personalized, they're not individualized, right? And it's impossible. It's impossible to do that. So, I'm not laying blame at anyone's door there, but what we're looking at here is a technological unlock, right? That will allow things that we have never done before and a new standard in terms of, what we can enable for workers at each stage of their career journey. And I think, some really interesting and exciting ideas as well around how then we can feed back labor market data that you have around what's needed and where certain industries are going back to universities, right? And I don't know if that happens in a programmatic way today. With Beamery clients, right, we certainly will pull in those insights to help them make better strategic decisions about their business, but creating a feedback loop that helps us as a society build the skills that we need in the future. Incredibly exciting, right? Because we can talk about these skill gaps purely within the context of business, but if you think about nations or regions like Europe, we're also experiencing skill crises, right? So if we can optimize education for where the puck is going, that's super exciting.
This podcast is brought to you by Always Possible. But who are we?
Always Possible works with ambitious businesses, charities, and public services that are thinking about what's next.
From architects to aerospace companies, puppet theatres to primary schools, business networks to big data analysts.
If you're wanting to be brave with some big decisions or to be clearer about what to prioritise, then an award-winning workshop from the Always Possible team is a brilliant starting point.
We care about just one thing: building ideas that work.
For creative, intuitive, and practical expertise, consider Always Possible as your strategic partner. Find out more about how we could power up your mission. Visit alwayspossible.co.uk.
alwayspossible.co.uk.
I guess the soapbox I stand on is this ludicrous concept that we have of within our sort of education system, that you learn everything, all the formal education, everything you need to know, you learn by the age of 21, and then you're done, and then you go and have your career and build your life and put back in the world and all. It's like, what? I mean, that really did die 100 years ago as even remotely logical. Yet that's still kind of how funding's built. That's still how relationships between the education system and business is still built, quite so often. I'd love to have, universities and businesses working alongside each other forever, as this kind of codependent, ecosystem of learning. But, never mind, one day. I want to talk to you about ethics. You've mentioned that a couple of times. And, one of the other big problems that perhaps the whole Western world has, but certainly the UK and probably the US in recruitment is just how obsessed we are with class and race and gender. And no matter how far we try and take some of the unconscious bias out of recruitment, it's always there. Just, the data is still terrifying about how people get through to phases of recruitment. But if you've got the wrong name or you went to the wrong school, it's still a massive disadvantage. I know it's getting better, but it still feels like there's a long way to go. I guess what you're creating or what you've created, the opportunity there, or, the possibility there is to really strip all of that out for good and to use your phrase, level the playing field. How are you approaching doing that? What is it that makes Beamery different to the slightly less successful ways that other people have tried in the past?
All of this starts with the ability for organizations to evaluate talent based on skills. You talk about existing unconscious bias around education, schooling, etc. Once you can look at a human as a set of skills and potential, you can push the other stuff to a side. And obviously, from a technological standpoint, there's a lot you can do in terms of masking, etc., so that you exclude those components from assessment processes to start off with, right? And you're purely looking at someone's skills fit or potential skills fit for a role. So I think that's really the first building block. The conversation around ethics and AI within HR is a really fascinating one, right? Because we spent a lot of time with the commissioner of the EEOC in the US, whose office regulates employment-related issues, and it's fascinating to hear his take on it, because you would think that a regulatory body like that would be, very focused on the compliance of AI and the restriction of the way that it's used across workforce and workplace issues. His perspective is actually a little different. He's actually very pro the use of AI within business, and that's for a couple of reasons. The first is that in issues around employment claim, as an organization, you have no real audit trail. You have what the manager said, right? And, what the person who was involved thought. With AI, number one, assuming it's it's not a black box solution. Number one, you understand the algorithm and you can test and deploy that and audit it. Number two, where there are claims or, potential issues, you have an audit trail of, everything that went into that decision. And the AI is never making the decision. It's still human making a decision. But now, instead of the only evidence or justification being kind of human inference, and now you have something that is auditable and is understandable, and employees, candidates, and for organizations, I think that's super positive. Now, for that to be positive, we need to have standards around what is expected from AI in terms of audits, in terms of a robust view around compliant algorithms, in terms of solutions not being black boxed, in terms of humans still being at the center of this. But in general, I think it allows us to back up this goal of being skills-based, this goal of providing equal opportunity, because we can see whether it's happening. We can see whether recommendations from AI are leading to bias or whether they're actually helping. And it makes it more objective.
That's really interesting and encouraging. I can see how that's beginning to make more transparent, but a challenge to what can be quite opaque human processes without much of an audit trail. The big challenge often is getting those candidates to apply in the first place. We don't have a meritocracy as much as we would like, and that's quite systemic. It's companies will always have a finite amount of resource to be able to advertise positions, and so they're likely to go where they get the most candidates, not necessarily where they have the widest pool of candidates. But I wondered, in terms of that recruitment piece, where does this sort of insights that your tool is creating help businesses when they are about to recruit think maybe differently about where those opportunities are advertised?
That makes it really important for businesses to be able to tap into pools of hidden talent, right? And to understand, okay, someone may not have this skill today, but do they have a skill that is adjacent to that skill, right? Or that might indicate a propensity to be able to learn, develop faster. I think that's really, really key here, because change is hard, right? And the way that people recruit, the focus on experience, that's not something that's easy to change overnight. 2 years after the start of TikTok, I saw, job adverts that was asking for 10 years of TikTok experience, right? It's
I'm sure they're out there at the moment, aren't they?
I'm sure you could find them, right?
And 20 years of chat GPT prompt engineering.
Exactly.
We only want the people who've been doing it for ages.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think it obviously starts with having to think about the way that your talent and HR organization operates and trying to make that shift towards focusing on skills versus experience. But I'd see it as a really positive move because suddenly you're unlocking, a huge talent pool that you're not looking at today, both internally within your organization and externally. And, if we're going to be able to keep up with, the changing, business headwinds and the agility that's required of us as businesses, we have to do it. We're not talking about optimization here. We're talking about survival. I think the businesses that are going to be the most successful are the ones that adopt these processes earlier and really focus on, okay, how can they build a skills-based organization where they truly understand the capabilities they have today, what they're going to need in the future, where they can build those internally, where they need to kind of go and buy them right from the market with contract resource. And it's a really interesting moment that we're in, but we have to look at this as an opportunity versus, sticking in the way that we've always done things.
I imagine it could be quite interesting to give ChatGPT or another AI bot, far more sophisticated, I guess, a load of data on who has been really successful in a particular company, who has managed to innovate and grow, and what are the characteristics and experience and the starting skills, and then what they went on to do. Actually putting in some of that, even if it's anonymized data, into and saying, right, so we've now got a new role that's doing something we haven't done before, rather than going with the obvious experience and the obvious core skill set or the obvious education background. What are the more nuanced things that we could be looking for? What's the kind of profile of a candidate? And then you could have some really surprising stuff. People saying, okay, for this engineering role, actually, you might want someone who's got some demonstrable creative experience, and has got a musical skill, because we found that 8 out of 10 of the people most successful in this role had a musical background. So there's probably a correlation there. That kind of intel could be game changing, couldn't it?
100%, right? And this is where job design is going. Job design is kind of calibration sessions between the manager and the recruiter to focus on the skills, and using AI to make sure that those skills are mapped to live market data, and being able to refine the skills based on, as you say, kind of successful and high performing employees. Because so often with hiring, we look at everything up until the moment the employee starts. We optimize for, okay, how can we be faster? How can it cost less? Etc. versus optimizing for employee lifetime value. How do I maximize my opportunity of bringing in a high performer? Being able to tie back the traits of high performers as part of that calibration and as part of that job design is something that we're super excited about at Beamery, because we think it allows for a step change in terms of the intelligence that is applied to hiring.
How far are you measuring the change that you are making or having around ethical recruitment practices, or the sort of disruption and challenge in the sector? How do you monitor whether you're shifting the dial on conversations around recruitment and upskilling and retaining staff?
For us, we always look at ourselves as a talent transformation company, first and foremost, and then a software vendor. What we're optimizing for is partnership with our customers. And are we enabling them on their transformation journey? And look, that's going to mean different things in different contexts. But ultimately, the vision is, how are we helping them change their operating model for talent? Are they able to unlock internal potential, right? Instead of, making a reduction in force, are they able to actually redeploy that talent to a different part of the business, right? Are they able to take roles that they would have hired externally and hire them internally by upskilling talent or by recognizing that talent existed? Are they able to improve employee engagement and retention? We talked for a long time over the past 10, 15 years about HR needing or wanting a seat at the table. I think we're in this moment in time now where talent and HR is really top of the CEO priority list, making sure that their organization has the skills that they need to shepherd the business forward is essential. And our goal as a partner to that organization is making sure that they're moving in that direction.
Can you see a time when HR departments don't even exist because it's so embedded and integrated into every team, and seeing that as part of growth, part of opportunity, part of team dynamics?
I mean, I have a lot to say on this topic. I think first and foremost, one of our goals as a business is obviously to elevate the role of everyone across the HR organization. How can we help them, do their job in a more strategic way, and how can we empower them to be business partners? If you think about the way that organizations do workforce planning or think about future changes and transformation, that tends to be a static top-down exercise that is run once a year or once every 3 years. And it tends to not involve to the right degree of depth the frontline managers that are actually going to be involved in executing on that plan. And one of the big visions that we have is to really look at the manager as the locus of control within the business around workforce development. How can we make that person a workforce strategist, right? And that doesn't mean that we want managers across the company logging into Beamery. Managers have enough on their plate already before they log into an HR technology. But what we do want is to empower managers with real-time insights and intelligence in the flow of their work to help them make the right decisions around talent. Because you create an annual plan, whether that's a workforce plan or a different plan, we all know 2 to 3 months into the year, things change. That plan, maybe that's not the right plan anymore. Empowering managers to be agile, empowering them to make decisions around M&A, make decisions around new geographies, make decisions as to when to hire, when the right time is to hire, when the right time is to upskill, with that real-time intelligence is something that is a really big focus for us, and I think allows HR to be a strategic partner to managers and business leaders, but also empowers managers to make decisions with the right data.
Last question. What is it that you want to be famous for? What is it that if you was one thing people said, this is what they absolutely nailed, what is it that you'd want?
At a high level, and this has not changed since we started the business, it is unlocking the potential of every human on the planet, right? Because if you think about everything that we've talked about, all the themes, the different processes, the way that HR can operate, better, more effectively, more productively, it all comes down to, can you recognize and unlock potential? And that is a deeply human thing that can impact and affect us all in a really positive way. So, when we think about transformation, that's what comes to mind for me.
Well, that feels like a big picture, but an optimistic and powerful point to close. Ben Slater, thanks so much for being a guest on the Possibility Club.
My pleasure. Great conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Possibility Club Practical Bravery. If you enjoyed this episode, do like, share, review, tell everybody about it. Look in the show notes for all the details of today's guest, stuff we talked about, stuff that's of interest, new things to read, new things to listen to. And if you are running a business or a charity and you are trying to accelerate or improve the impact that you have in the world, if you want to be famous for what you do and what you change rather than just what you sell, then talk to us. alwayspossible.co.uk. We want to hear from you, we want to talk to you, we want to amplify and elevate your ideas, and who knows, we might be able to help you feel more confident and clear about what's next. alwayspossible.co.uk. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new special guest and a new insight on practical bravery in action.
The Possibility Club is an Always Possible podcast. The interviewer was Richard Freeman for Always Possible, and the producer and editor was me, Chris Thorpe Tracy, for Lo-Fi Arts. Have a good week.
alwayspossible.co.uk.
Lo-Fi Arts.